Hey guys, welcome back to Four Tires and Fuel. Today we're having episode 7 and Cole is back with us this week.
That's right, glad to be back. Great race, Texas.
Texas over the weekend was pretty eventful, I would have to say for myself. We had a new winner, Denny Hamlin. So on that note, we're going to go into the green flag and we're going to recap the Texas Motor Speedway race. What were some of your thoughts from this race?
I thought it was great to see all those lead changes. There was no clear-cut best car, I'd say. I mean, Denny Hamlin overcame 2 pit road violations, so I guess you could argue that he had the best car, but you had a bunch of cars leading to a bunch of laps. Notably, you had all of Joe Gibbs Racing, Hendrick Motorsports you had. It was just great to see.
It's funny to say that because he beat Clint Bowyer off at pit road in the last to win basically the race, and he had 2 pit road penalties, so his pit crew did a really good job getting him into the lead and winning that race. And that's his second win of the season so far, and I think Joe Gibbs was really proud of him because of everything that happened with JD and everything in the 11 car.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope this is a great indication of races to come because it was just great racing all throughout, As I said, tons of lead changes, tons of passes. It was just great racing. It's what you want to see. It's more of strategy at play as opposed to like a more so dominant car.
And Hendrick Motorsports basically, in a way, turned over a leaf. That Jimmie Johnson led some laps and Hendrick Motorsports was actually competing, I feel like, this week. And I hope that that carries over into Bristol next week and the weeks to come, that Jimmie Johnson will have that dominant car again like he's had in past years. And Chase Elliott did dominate in Martinsville and finished second. Alex Bowman and William Byron really have just had solid top 20 finishes, but really haven't done anything this season. So I hope that maybe with Hendrick Motorsports going up on a new leaf and building up, that maybe they'll start going with Jimmie Johnson and Chase Elliott.
Well, William Byron did lead some laps. He actually did impress me quite a bit. I do get what you're saying, though. He didn't get the finish that he deserved, but it was nice to see him running up front. Those Hendrick cars were really, really dominant early on. I mean, Alex Bowman wasn't really a factor, but you had Chase Elliott, Jimmie Johnson, William Byron. They all ran pretty well. And yeah, I hope it does translate into later races, but you don't want to get your hopes up too early, Taking down the top 10, we had Denny Hamlin as your race winner, win number 2 on the season. Clint Bowyer coming in second. Daniel Suarez with his best finish of the season in third. Eric Jones finishing 4th, Jimmie Johnson with a top 5 finish. William Byron finishing 6th, Eric Almirola in 7th, Kevin Harvick in 8th, Kurt Busch in 9th, and Kyle Busch in 10th.
I think the most abnormal one throughout this season already is Kyle Busch finishing 10th. He's dominated, won so many races already this season, and Kyle Busch in 10th just doesn't seem right, but that's what happened in Texas, But Joe Gibbs still dominated and Denny Hamlin still won a race, so you can still say that Joe Gibbs is still the dominant race car team this season.
Right, and that's a good problem to have. Saying that Kyle Busch in 10th is a disappointing finish because, you expect this high standard of him to finish, first, second, but lots of standout performances in the top 10 for me. I mean, all of Joe Gibbs Racing well overperformed. You had Eric Jones leading late in the race. You had Daniel Suarez finishing 3rd. And then, obviously, Kyle Busch with another top 10 finish, Denny Hamlin winning. So, very scary team early on. I will say the one disappointment for me throughout the season so far is Martin Truex Jr. He's one of the only Gibbs cars that did not kind of show up in this race. And based off his performance last year, you kind of expect him to be up front, getting those top 5 finishes. And even, I pegged him to have maybe 1 or 2 wins so far this season.
Yeah, we talked about that in past episodes about Martin Truex Jr., how he felt like he was underperforming in a way with Joe Gibbs. He has the correct crew, he has the correct car, he has the correct gear and everything, but I don't know what's not clicking with Martin Truex Jr. yet. He's in the 19 car. He's running, I guess, solid in a way, but there's just no, clear, he was when he won in 2017, the championship, where he was just a dominant car, and I feel like that's Kyle Busch right now. He's just a dominant car. But I really do hope that Martin Truex Jr. can maybe figure out what's going wrong with the new gear or something. And I know it is an adjustment going to a new team, but you would think someone as good as he as a driver would adapt, I guess, quicker in a way.
Absolutely. And not to say he's underperforming. He had a couple 8th place finishes, a couple 2nd place finishes. this was his worst finish of the season so far in 12th, but that's not bad. You just expect a higher standard from Truex coming out of last year.
And another one that surprised me and was also my pick to win in Texas that I kind of made fun of me was Jimmie Johnson finished 5th and William Byron finished 6th. That, like we talked about earlier, Hendrick Motorsports, we hope is maybe figuring out what's working for them now and moving forward. But like we said, we can't look too forward into the future. But with Chase Elliott in 2nd place in Martinsville and Jimmie Johnson in 5th and William Byron in 6th in Texas, hopefully maybe that they're building some speed and maybe have competitive cars going forward.
Yeah, just getting used to this new package, getting used to, in Jimmie Johnson's case, Kevin Mendering, William Byron, Chad Knaus. It's just getting used to those new factors this season. And I do believe they're going to, like you said, turn a new leaf, and I think they're going to pick it up as the season moves on.
But I also do think Joe Gibbs is going to continue to dominate.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't see anything slowing down, and I do think a Joe Gibbs driver will probably win the championship this season, just off what we've already seen. And I know it is a little too far to call it, but just with Kyle Busch already and Denny Hamlin winning, and I just see it happening and constantly overperforming with top 10 finishes with all drivers. It's just crazy to see.
And you mentioned slowing down. Team Penske did not impress in this race at all. I mean, you had Brad Keselowski with the failure, Ryan Blaney with the failure. Highest finishing Penske car was actually Joey Logano in 17th. I don't think there's an immediate cause for concern. It's only one race, but you don't want to see these mechanical issues happen, and you don't want it to become a habit for these teams. So what's your take on Penske's, struggles at Texas?
I think that every team is going to struggle, I think, at one race or another. You really, like we said, can't put and just say, oh, Texas was the downfall of Penske. Brad Keselowski's already won 2 races this season. Joey Logano is dominated. Ryan Blaney has led so many laps this season, just hasn't been able to finish it. So I don't think we can just look at Texas because, like we said, Hendrick Motorsports has had troubles already in the past with different races and Texas, they're turning the leap, but we can't say, Penske's downfall was Texas and Hendrick Motorsports is moving up above them. They still have overperformed Hendrick Motorsports in all the other races, and Brad's won 2 races, like we said. So I just think that they had an off day, but they'll pick it up again in Bristol.
Exactly. No cause for concern, just an odd day for Team Penske. Another guy I wanted to kind of highlight, Clint Bowyer. He's ran very well this season. He's voiced his displeasure quite vocally about the new rule changes and most notably qualifying. I kind of want to get your take on the whole qualifying situation because you had NASCAR come out and say that they're mulling over going back to single car qualifying and kind of accommodating to these drivers. But what do you think they should do for qualifying?
I think that I understand what happened in Fontana was not pleasing for fans to see no one finish a lap. But I don't think single qualifying cars is going to go back to the way it was. I think people enjoy seeing the drafting, seeing multiple cars on the track, and seeing them use each other and use different strategies during it. I understand how people are probably mad with the whole you have to stay in your box and once you leave you have to go. But I understand that people want to see racing also, but I think they should have not changed it so much, and as Clint Bowyer or someone else said, was this is just make up rules as we go during this season. And I think NASCAR needs to actually sit down, hopefully at the end of this year, and just look back at all the rule changes that they made and maybe think, maybe we should have given them another chance.
I do think that this qualifying format actually is great for the sport. What I will say is I wish NASCAR would kind of stick to their word and abide by their rules because they mentioned specifically before this qualifying at Texas, there would be no tolerance for clogging the lanes, and it was evident that Ryan Newman clogged the lane for Clint Bowyer, and that clearly messed him up for starting position. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the qualifying format. I'd like to see NASCAR stick to their rules and be more strict with these rules.
And when they stick to the rules and when they don't stick to the rules, then they automatically just change the rules. So it's just stick to one rule, I guess, in a sense. But we'll see how NASCAR keeps going and changing. Maybe they'll stick to one rule, hopefully, for qualifying for the rest of the season. But maybe other drivers will voice their opinion enough that they'll probably either change it or they'll just keep it the way it finally is.
Right. And for me personally, single car qualifying it's boring. It's not like an event. I truly feel like qualifying has become an event this season. Like, it's something I want to watch. You have all these tempers flaring, these high drama finishes to the line. You don't even know if people are going to make it sometimes. I think it's making qualifying an event to watch. I think it's great for the fans. It's great for the sport. I understand drivers' frustrations. I know they're not getting the starting positions they want, but I think it is good for the sport, personally, in my opinion.
Yeah, like you said, it's fun to watch. I remember when it was single car qualifying, all you had to do was just wait until the end and turn on to see the TV and see who would win. But now you have to watch every single round to see if your driver moves forward into the round of 12 or the round of 24, then the round of 12, and then compete. And I think it's cool sometimes just to watch the cars just sit and wait as long as they can and then go and see if they can, and then all the other cars go and whoever will be first to move. So I think that NASCAR should keep it that way. Everyone was used to like, okay, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is up next on the track, and then he goes around, and if he doesn't get that, that's all his time was, and then basically he just starts at that point and everyone else goes above him. But I think this actually gives opportunity for cars to run faster lap times, to see what works for their cars, what doesn't work for their cars, and I think it helps for them in the race also and during practice.
Now, we've had a pretty good sample of races so far this season. I just want to highlight some drivers that maybe disappointed us and impressed us thus far. So for me, as far as a driver that's kind of disappointed me, has been Kyle Larson. This is not uncommon for Kyle Larson to be running, I guess, towards the middle of the pack early on in the season. We've seen it last year. We've seen it in years prior. It just takes a little bit for him to get going. But, I mean, he's led 142 laps. He has 2 top 10 finishes. Last year he had 2 top 5 finishes at this point. Average finish is 15th. I just feel like there's a lot of cause for concern. He's had a lot of mechanical issues, pit road miscues. It's something you don't want to see from a guy like Kyle Larson, his caliber and his talent. But if there's any place he's going to pick it up, it's going to be Bristol, because he has tremendous success there. I hope he can improve at Bristol. I'm hoping for a top 10 finish, but you never know.
I think someone that's disappointed me, per se, was Jimmie Johnson. He's 15th in points, and his same average finish as Kyle Larson's in 15th, and that's not normal, I guess, in a sense, for Jimmie Johnson. He's a 7-time NASCAR champion. He's won 6 times in a row. For him to already be 15th in points, I know it's at the beginning of the season was only 7 races, but he only has 1 top 5 finish, and that was in Texas last week, and then 3 top 10 finishes, which isn't terrible, but he has no poles, he has no wins, and really he's only led 64 laps. He's led less laps than Kyle Larson has this season. And I know Hendrick Motorsports, like we have been saying the entire show, has just been struggling, but I really would think that Jimmie Johnson, being a veteran, would have maybe overperformed the other Hendrick Motorsports drivers, but that just hasn't been the case, and they've all been about the same, like mediocre, like top 10, top 20 finishes at the best with that. So I'm hoping maybe Jimmie Johnson will pick it up throughout following Texas's top 5 finish.
Right, and even Hendrick Motorsports in general, like you were saying, they've been disappointing. Even Chase Elliott, I would have pegged him for a win or two so far in the season. The only standout performance this season so far has been Chase Elliott at Martinsville. I mean, I guess you could kind of make a case for Jimmie Johnson at Texas, but very, very lackluster performance from Hendrick Motorsports thus far.
Yeah, like his average start is 10th, and you would have thought by Jimmie Johnson maybe. But like we've been saying, he has a new crew chief, so maybe getting used to that, and that he's getting used to the new package, getting used to the new crew chief, and maybe this season will just not be like as dominant like he usually is, but maybe 2020 will lead to another championship for Jimmie Johnson. We just never know, and like we only said, it's only been 7 races, so anything can happen at this point. I think now we're going to go to someone that's impressed me. I think someone, in a way that it's impressed me in a way, is 5th in points, and that's Aric Almirola. He has no wins, but he has 1 top 5 and 6 top 10 finishes. So he's finished in the top 10 every single race. He's led 72 laps. His average finish is 10th. So that's just great to see Aric Almirola back up there. I know with the back injury setting him back in other seasons, but I'm just glad that he's back to where he normally is, and having a top 10 finish in every single race so far this season is like a really good momentum going into the rest of the season, I think, for him.
Yeah, it's great to see him in his sophomore season at Stewart Haas Racing, really putting on a strong show. He's on pace to have probably the best season of his career. He's the guy that I would have probably said that impressed me the most so far this year. So great pick. I think he's due for a huge season. I think he will definitely be in the hunt for that championship come down to Homestead this year. For me, there's a couple guys that stand out. I can throw out Austin Dillon, even Ryan Newman, but I'm going to go with Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez has shown a lot of intensity this season. You know, we had that altercation on pit road with Michael McDowell. He's a guy that has a lot of passion for the sport. Has best finish this weekend in third at Texas. 3 top 10 finishes. Couple unfortunate incidents in some races, but I've seen a lot of improvement from Daniel Suarez. I know he's still getting adjusted to these new Ford Mustangs, but I think this is going to be a huge season for Daniel Suarez. I've said that before. I'm just going to stand by that. I think he'll get a win or two this season. And, I think I love what I see from Daniel Suarez so far.
I hope he gets a win, but also another person I hope gets a win is Ryan Blaney. He's just dominated, and he's led so many laps, and Brad and Joey have already won for Team Penske, and Team Penske was dominating, and I know Texas was not as good for them, but I can feel Ryan Blaney getting a win. He has 3 top 5 and 3 top 10. So there's only one race that he has not finished in the top 10, and he has a pole. It's just like he's led 195 laps. Like, he's led more than Joey Logano, and Joey Logano has a win. I feel like Ryan Blaney is going to get a win soon.
Absolutely. It's a matter of time. It's just disappointing to see, especially for a guy like Ryan Blaney, because he's such a personality for the sport, and he's a guy that people love in the garage area as well. You don't want to see his kind of like morale go down because he's not winning these races yet, but I mean, he has great cars every week. He's always leading laps. He's running up there, so he should not be worried. It's just, it is disappointing to see him not have a win so far, but a win is coming for sure very soon for him.
It's just finishing. I think that's a lot of drivers' issues, I guess, this season is finishing the race. Kyle Busch, we all know, can finish a race. Joe Logano, Brad can finish a race. Denny Hamlin now has 2 wins and can finish a race. But these just, like, not smaller names, but younger drivers are just having trouble staying up in the front when it comes to finishing the race. They'll lead so many laps, and then one little thing will go wrong, or their car will get a little loose and they'll drop back. They just need to figure out how to stick in the lead and just finish the race in first. And I think that may be not another issue for Chase Elliott, but Chase Elliott had the lead in Martinsville. He was the only one that passed Joey Logano, and he just couldn't stick it out. So it's just these small, newer drivers that are just trying to find their way, I think, in the sport too.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, honestly. It's like we saw last year with William Byron. He was running up front, running top 10, top 15, couldn't close it out, get finish he deserved. One thing I will say, though, is I do have quite a bit of concern for Bubba Wallace. He's been awful this year, and I hate to see it, but...
You don't hear anything about him. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, average finish is 26th. Like you said, you barely even hear his name throughout the race broadcast. It's disappointing to see. You want to see a guy like Bubba Wallace make an impact on this sport. You know, the Daytona 500 last year, he blew up. He was massive. And if he can even run top 15, that would be great for the sport. It'd be great for bringing in a diverse culture of people, you know? So, I don't know, you'd hope Bubba Wallace can pick it up, but there is definitely a cause for concern for me.
Yeah, his average finish is 26, and his average start is 21st, so there's not really any difference between where he starts and where he finishes. But like you said, Daytona, he blew up, and that was all you ever heard about was Bubba Wallace joining the sport. And now this season, I feel like he's just under the radar in races, and he may have some mechanical issues, and then you'll hear about him because he caused a caution. But really, other than that, he isn't running in the top 10. He isn't running in the top 15 even at this point. It's just, scary to see. But also, like, Matt DiBenedetto is about the same too. He had a really good start with Daytona this season and kind of dropped back, so maybe that will be the same with Bubba Wallace.
Speaking of guys like Matt DiBenedetto, you had Michael McDowell actually at Texas. He was running top 15 pretty consistently all day. That was really impressive for me. He finished 15th. Great to see, great for the sport, great for those, underfunded teams. And like we said earlier in these episodes, it could have potential to be like Truex putting Furniture Row on the map. You never know.
I think that Michael McDowell, when he raced for Levine Family Racing, did a really good job, and I know changing teams can never be easy, but Michael McDowell has, in a way, impressed me this season already with his team, and I think that will continue. I'm not expecting a win. I'm not expecting consistent top 5, top 10 finishes, but I think top 15 at Texas, he finished before Joey Logano, but it was just, like, good to see him in the 34 car building up that confidence in themselves going through the NASCAR season. The white flag is out. That means we are going to preview Bristol Motor Speedway race this upcoming Sunday. I think last season we saw Kyle Busch win the race, but Kyle Larson finished second, Jimmy Johnson finished third, Ricky Stenhouse finished fourth, Alex Bowman finished fifth. We talked a lot of those people disappointed us already this season. Do we think Bristol is probably going to be the turning point for them compared to what we saw last season with Kyle Busch winning, but like Kyle Larson, like we said, finishing second and Jimmy Johnson finishing third?
It's definitely a possibility. I know those short tracks they always bring a lot of new players to the forum. I do think that we're going to see Ricky Stenhouse Jr. up there for sure. Kyle Larson should be a lock to be up there. It'd be nice to see Jimmy Johnson keep it up. I mean, no doubt Kyle Busch will be up front. He might probably win the race, honestly. And Alex Bowman, little bit of uncertainty there. I mean, he's been very mediocre this year, but we will see what he can do. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, like we said before, Hendrick Motorsports is turning a new leaf. They seem to be picking it up, catching on, so it's possible. I'm not going to say it's likely, but it's possible that Alex Bowman runs up front. Top 10.
Think maybe. I don't know. But I do think, like we said, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's been someone also that's been kind of just on the down low this season already. But I think Bristol will help him with what success he had last year. I think that he'll run in, like Eric Almirola finished 6th in Bristol last year, and I think he's going to continue with those top 5, top 10 finishes as well.
And Stenhouse has kind of been a guy that's been silently consistent. He's 13th in points right now. He has a top 10 finish, led some laps, average finish is 15th, but he's been up front. He just kind of like we were saying earlier, just can't really close it out, but he has been up front. You've heard his name. He's been up there in contention, so I do think he will be up front for sure.
He's the one where he'll make a statement if he's there. He will wreck you.
Right, and it's Bristol. It's an aggressive track. Tempers flare. There's no doubt you'll see Stenhouse making some moves.
And maybe some wrecks. I know a lot of NASCAR fans, like the new package with less wrecks and everything, but I know some fans do like the wrecks, so maybe Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will cause some wrecks like he did at Daytona, where I feel like he had that tiny little space and he still went for it, and maybe in Bristol, because he is, I think, one of the most aggressive drivers we have this season so far already.
Yeah, for sure.
The way he drives, but like we said, we never really hear about his opinions on races or anything because he never really solid finishes. So I think it'll be great to see him hopefully run up top this week.
One thing I'm also curious to see is if we have a dominant car at Bristol like we had at Martinsville, because, I mean, looking at Brad Keselowski's performance at Martinsville, that was, unheard of. So that's not something you usually see at a short track. It'll be interesting to see if it carries over to Bristol. I don't think it will, but if it does, it'll be interesting.
If I had to put anything on one dominant car, I would say it'd be Kyle Busch.
Yeah, no question. I mean, Bristol's his track. Seems like every track is his track at this point. But Bristol in specific is a ridiculous track for Kyle Busch.
So if there was, like we said, one car dominating, it has to be Kyle Busch. There's no doubt. In my mind, if there is one car, it'll be Kyle Busch. And if it's not Kyle Busch, I'm going to be sitting there just confused with life. But it's okay, because... But now we'll go into our driver predictions for who's going to win at Bristol Motor Speedway. Who is your choice?
I'm going to go with a Joe Gibbs car. Not the obvious choice, but a guy who ran up front towards the end of the last race, finished 4th. I'm going to go with Eric Jones, actually. Eric Jones actually has a great record at Bristol in the Cup Series. Through 4 races, he has 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, even has a pole. He's led 260 laps. Average finish is 12th. I think he is due for another big season, bigger than last year. I think he'll get multiple wins. I think that Texas is only the beginning for Joe Gibbs Racing. You only really saw Kyle Busch and so-so Denny Hamlin running up front in the top 5, top 10, but I think from this point forward, you're going to see Truex and Jones up there, and specifically, I think we're going to see Jones get that win at Bristol on Sunday.
My pick is Team Penske, but not the two drivers that have already won. I'm picking Ryan Blaney. He doesn't have the best average finish at Bristol. His average finish is 21, almost 22. He's only raced there 7 times and has 2 top 10, and he's led 221 laps there in the 7 races. But he's dominated in a way these other races, leading laps, and I just think that Bristol hopefully will be the point in the season where he can just finish it out, the one race, and get into the chase, and then all 3 Penske drivers will have wins. But I just see Ryan Blaney. I know Bristol may not be his track, and like we said, maybe Eric Jones' track is Bristol, and maybe he'll pull it out, but I just hope that Ryan Blaney will learn from his mistakes maybe earlier on that he's made throughout the season and finally put it all together at Bristol and win this weekend.
I love to see that. I love to see Ryan Blaney win this race, honestly.
I would love to see Eric Jones win this race. I don't want to sound rude, but I just want someone else to win a race this season already. I love Kyle Busch dominating. I love Brad dominating. I love Denny dominating, but I just feel like there's someone new that needs to win this season already. And I know it's only 7 races in, but to have someone win that many races already and have only 4 drivers win out of 7 races, that's just crazy to see already.
Yeah, and you respect it, but like you said, you want to see those new drivers win races. It does get redundant. You respect it, but it gets tiring to see that. Like last year, we had Kevin Harvick win all those races,
Like you said, respect it. Like, you can't not just say, oh, Kyle Busch is so bad, he's won only 2 races. But no, you have to just go with it and just, like you said, respect it. He's got his 200th win this season. Like, you just have to respect that. He may be the new king, like we said, of Phoenix earlier on in another episode, but I just think Ryan Blaney or Eric Jones is going to pull it out.
Well, guess we'll find out Sunday. It's Bristol, baby.
Check out the Food City 500 in Bristol at 2 p.m. Eastern Time this Sunday coming up. That's all we have for you today on this episode. I'm Ashlyn Register.
I'm Cole Cusimano. Thank you so much for listening.